Senate Democrats caved and decided that they were good with a IOU from Senate Republicans to eventually have a discussion about ACA subsidies.
Mm-hmm.
No commitment to pass anything.
Mike Johnson's like, we're not doing that. Okay. Great.
They truly got nothing. But they ended it, and I'm sure, like, I mean, you traveled. Let's see, did you fly out before? I mean, as someone who's currently
Saturday.
air traveling,
yeah,
or flying, air traveling, like a little bit happy for people who are flying and FAA, agents. Although if there's any left, like who are now getting paid,
yeah.
But it was a massive cave, and even liberal Democrats saw how much of a massive cave this was.
I absolutely agree. And I think that there's a reason that every Democrat that of this gang of 8, and Ossoff was speculated to be somebody who could have caved, but he didn't end up doing that, which I think says everything.
Yeah.
In 2026, he's up, right? And he was considered frontline, and you don't want to hurt your chances in 2026. And it was his calculation that it would be better to vote against this deal than to vote for it. So that says a lot about where the base is. And then, of course, it's like 3 or 4 of the Democrats who voted for this are retiring.
Yeah.
And then the rest are either up in 2028 or 2030. And I do love Chuck Schumer thinking he's so slick and pretending like he wasn't across this entire negotiation. There's been reporting showing that he was in daily communication with them. And like, this is the question every reporter should be asking this of Schumer. Okay, so you didn't know this was happening. You didn't know that 8 members of your caucus were going to cave. How was that possible? One of your number one jobs, besides, as he would say, is keeping the left pro-Israel, which he's failing at that side job, side gig job that he has going. Your whole job as Senate Majority Leader is to keep your caucus together. Nancy Pelosi retiring, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we'll give her credit. She was always keeping the caucus together. That is a part of having a unified opposition. So you're either incredibly bad at that core tenet of your job, or you're lying. And it's the latter, because like the airline lobby was pissed. Wall Street hates a shutdown. It causes instability in the economy. Of course, the harm that, like, Tim Kaine voting for it, there's a way I can like understand it to a degree in the fact that there's so many federal workers in Virginia who were really, really hurting. I understand that, but you can sell that, I guess, better. I don't think
the tide was turning,
but the tide was turning, and it was just undercut their momentum. And it's a gift. Well, it really undercut their momentum out of the elections, like to cave in this way. But then you have the Epstein thing that happened right after that, which sort of cushion the blow a bit. And I'm sure that was a part of the Democrats' plan, at least the House Democrats, because once the shutdown ended, Grijalva was able to be sworn in, and now we have enough the signatures for the discharge.
20,000 emails, everybody. I hope you are going through them like God has commanded you to do. I mean, I don't want to say the Epstein files were part of the calculation, because I don't think that. I'm much more swayed by the you don't want to shut down during Black Friday, Thanksgiving travel. Like, no, that's gonna be bad for everybody, specifically money.
But it's like, it was benefiting the Democrats. They had just had electoral wins showing that people were pissed off about it. All of the polling indicated that people blame the Republicans more for the shutdown than they blame the Democrats. And so then you just have the question of like, what is really underneath this? And the rumors are that these Democrats were really concerned that Trump was genuinely going to nuke the filibuster.
So put a pin in that really quickly, because I want to play this guy Sam Seder and his thoughts on that, which is, I know, got to. But I did want to say, I do think, I had Pema Levy on from Mother Jones telling me about the SNAP stuff and all this stuff. So not only was there pressure, obviously, from federal workers, from FAA workers and TSA and whatnot, but there was also massive pressure over SNAP. And the Supreme Court was stuck ruling on it. And it was like, there was disbursements for some states for like half the blue states, but they couldn't take them back. So like Trump was showing his whole ass going like, I am literally calling it an emergency to stop feeding 42 million people in this country. And he was being exposed for doing that. And there was confusion in the courts. So actually some people were getting some money. And so it was all kind of coming to a head of like, this looks terrible on him. And Trump even admitted that after the, election, failures. So
like, at least give it another week, to your point.
Give it a week.
Even if you're going to cave, I would have hated it too. But if you gave it a week, that dynamic could have played out that you're describing.
Exactly. And they didn't. And I think the filibuster, so I was like, man, it's money. The Senate doesn't work for us, which they don't. But I wanted you to explain this a little bit more, because Sam said something the other day. I'm going to actually do this. And it drove me up the wall how accurate this might be.
Oh my God. All right, let's do it.
The question is, why did they do it? I have an idea, but here's Bernie Sanders on Brian. Not going to. Why did they do this? I think the biggest reason is, if you look at these Senate Democrats that voted for this, they either did it on behalf of other people or themselves.
I forgot to speed this up.
This was to protect the filibuster.
Here we go.
Because the Republicans had two choices. They were either A, this is if the Democrats held out. They would either A, capitulate to the Democrats, extend the Obamacare subsidies, which they probably wanted to do, but these people are so deranged that even just the idea that they would lose to the Democrats is enough to say that even if the losing to Democrats means that we actually help our constituents and help us electorally, because the constituents are not as upset, they still won't do that, because this is an authoritarian regime. And you can never, ever let your opponents win anything, get any type of win. We saw it. We saw when Trump said, don't let Biden get a win. Don't do anything bipartisan.
Yep, around immigration.
They understand this dynamic. So if they weren't going to concede to the Democrats, they had one other option where they literally could just pass whatever they wanted to. They've done this on 3 occasions already, just this year. And that is suspend or get rid of the filibuster. The filibuster is not a law. The 60 vote threshold is not a law. It is a tradition in the Senate, essentially. And
now, hang on, time out really quickly. Just for my understanding, they could get rid of the Republicans could vote to get rid of the filibuster in order to reopen the government?
Yes.
So that's very easy.
But they don't. Well, that was the threat, right? I mean, I think that Trump was really, really pushing for that. They could, because if they don't need those Democrats, they can just do an up and down vote on the CR.
Right.
So that was like that was I think Sam's theory is very good, very on point. And I think Corey Robin wrote an item in Jacobin backing up some of this reporting.
Okay, I'm going to play a little bit more.
Yeah.
They could easily just say, we're going to have a vote to change the rules. The parliamentarian says, you can't really do that. And then
they do it anyway.
John Thune says, hey, remember when we changed the way that we were going to account for the budget in the big, beautiful bill? Forever, we have always said, if something's going to expire, let's say these tax cuts are going to expire, when we account for the cost of the bill that follows it, we use an accounting method where we basically say, okay, the tax cuts are going to expire. We're going to assume they're going to go back up to where they were because the tax cuts expire. And if we cut from there, that's going to cost the government something. They unilaterally decided that they were going to change the way they were accounting. So the big, beautiful bill looked like it cost less. Now, everybody knows it didn't, but on paper, it looked like it cost less. That was one time they got rid of the filibuster. The other time was when they wanted to override California environmental standards. They overrode the filibuster. They could have done it this time. And Trump would have forced them to do it eventually, the Republicans. But the Democrats still, they are so institutionally blind. They are such institutionalists. They are so determined to get back to normalcy, even though it is quite clear there's another party that is not normal, that is full-on authoritarian at this point. They wanted to protect the filibuster. They wanted to protect the filibuster more than those Republicans, because if the Republicans want to make it easy for the Democrats to cave, they could have said, okay, we'll do half subsidies. We'll do subsidies for a year. We'll do subsidies for 6 months. But they didn't, because they knew Democrats are going to cave. And why is it so important to people like Chuck Schumer?
Almost done.
Yeah.
Catherine Masto-Cortez. Jackie Rosen. Tim Kaine. Why is it so important to them to have the filibuster? So that they can vote for policies that their voters want and know that it won't go into effect because they don't have 60 votes, because they can't get the extra 10 votes they need or 5 votes they need from the Republicans.
All right. So his point is effectively Democrats want to preserve the filibuster in order to have plausible deniability on their ability to get anything done for the American people, for their base, for progressives. He goes on to say filibuster 9 times out of 10 stops real progress.
Yeah.
From getting done. And
I think there's a genuine threat too to do this in he talks about those other more, small ball instances, like with the California environmental standards. But this pertains to the government budget, which would be open a whole different can of worms, because this is a part of the kind of way that the Senate institution maintains itself, is that when you need that 60 vote threshold, when you need that 60 vote threshold for the continuing resolution, it boxes out the left and the right and the far right of both parties. Sure. I just wanted to read a little from Corey Robin here, where I think he kind of echoes what Sam says. He just said the main issue was the filibuster. There was growing pressure from Donald Trump to get rid of it, blah, blah, blah. It has very little to do with preserving their power while they are in the minority. That ship has obviously sailed. The Democratic leadership doesn't want to get rid of the filibuster for the same reason the Republican leadership doesn't want to get rid of it. The filibuster allows the leadership of both parties to keep their radical flanks at bay. Chuck Schumer needs the filibuster to protect himself from the Bernie Sanders wing in the Senate and the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez wing in the House. If you can't get to 60, Bernie and AOC, we have to follow the lead of Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. Same goes for John Thune, to whoever inhabits the radical role at any given moment for the GOP. And he also just has this excerpt from the New York Times on November 4th. This just a quick sentence. In reality, the filibuster also serves Republicans as a handy check on a president who sometimes takes stances that carry substantial risk or defy party orthodoxy, an excuse for Senate Republicans to avoid doing things they don't see as sound policy or politics without infuriating Mr. Trump. So this was, I would say, a moment of Senate congeniality, of shared understanding with a guy like Thune and a guy like Chuck Schumer, where they want to maintain the institution that put them in the top 2 positions in the Senate. And that is that is the role that they play. They need the filibuster to maintain their power, because they would lose control of their caucus in the ways that matter to them if it were to go away.
I mean, I definitely hear that it's both sides, but you're like, what? The right has handed all their balls to Stephen Miller and Donald Trump. They have, fucking Mike Johnson has basically, erased the role of Congress, of the House of Representatives completely, allowing Trump to do tariffs and whatever the hell else he wants. So my question is I understand that for the right, it's I guess we can say we don't have the votes, which is good when you're trying to prevent authoritarianism, but in what aspect have they prevented it? Not at all. Instead, I look to what Democrats are preventing, which could be a universal health care, could be paid family leave, it could be the Build Back Better bill in full that we were promised, that Joe Biden wanted to pass and progressives stuck by, and it was the centrist Democrats that thwarted, like Manchin, like Gottheimer. So it's just like, this is the kind of shit that makes me absolutely,
I think you're right,
bonkers
though.
nuts.
I think you're right, though, because I maybe perhaps Republicans are more concerned with nuking the filibuster and Democrats getting back into power. That's also a possibility there. And if they were the ones to do it, what that would mean when Democrats get back into
can
power.
actually pass what they want.
Yeah, if that ever happens, right? And so I think the point that you're making, or like it's connected to our assessment of this, is just basically that, like, yeah, those institutional Democrats got played. They got played because.
But did they? I mean, I think Sam is making the point that they didn't get played because they want to prevent progress as well.
Right. Or at the very least, like, perhaps they were sold a bill of goods in terms of like John Thune and the Republicans' desire to maintain the filibuster above all else, and that's much more in their interest.
Sure, it's we should abolish the Senate.
Yes.
I'm sorry, the Senate should be abolished.
It's undemocratic already.
Yes.
So, like, I'm getting lost in a few of these points here, but it is like the filibuster disproportionately helps the right. Because of the fact that rural red states have the same number of Senate seats as the Democratic ones. And so they already have disproportionate power, even if the filibuster was adopted or was abolished tomorrow. Like, they have disproportionate representation on that alone.
Yes.
And then on top of that, they have the filibuster. So it's an undemocratic institution, and it should, to your point, go by the way of like the House of Lords in the UK, where it should be much more of a ceremonial body, but it really, really is the center of power in the legislature.
I didn't realize the House of Lords was ceremonial. Is it like the Crown?
I believe not fully, but its power was significantly diminished a few hundred, and maybe 150 years ago.
Sound off in the comments if you know
please
anything about the House of Commons. Or the House of Lords.
Yeah.
What do you call the whole thing? Parliament?
Yeah.
I knew that.
I think so.
Here's my thing. You start to lose hope in moments like these in the Democratic Party. And this is when I consult, my mentors who are, it's like, we have to continually fight for this party that will never love us back, change it, primary people, Zoran Mamdani it, and we are winning slowly, but it's very slow. And the biggest obstacle to progress are the centrist corporate Democrats, are these institutionalists. And so it's very difficult, especially for you and I, and to consistently tell my audience, no, let's keep fighting for this fucking corporate ass party. Number one, there aren't other options. I do think running independent in some places actually would be beneficial, but we don't have third parties. And we should work towards creating them in our lifetime, but that would probably have to happen from more of a top down, a meeting of top and you know what I'm saying?
Top and bottom strategy.
A top and bottom, inside outside strategy.
Hey.
Nothing is sexual here, but like, it is hard. It's just hard to be like, oh, no. Keep believing in it, which is why I'm telling my audience, it's like, join Working Families Party, join DSA, get involved locally, do street protests, work on an outside strategy, because that's what these fools really need.
Yeah.
To hold them accountable. It's like,
well, the DSA thing is a good example of that. In New York, at least, like, they started in terms of, assembly races or city council, and they built up slowly a little bit of a coalition in Albany, a little bit of coalition in City Hall. And what do you know? That was a lot more fertile soil for a guy like Zoran Mamdani to win, because he had a base of support in actual government.
What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Do it.